How long can we maintain our current lifestyle? This is a great question, and thanks for asking it. So, my name is Dr. Kim Beasy, and I'm a social science researcher exploring what sustainability might look like for different people. Now, what the research tells us is that the amount of stuff that we use in order to live has really exploded in many parts of the world, Australia, Tasmania included. Now, we know this because global extraction of materials, so things like mining for precious metals and harvesting of trees for wood, has tripled over the past 4 decades. Now, we produce about 300 tonnes of plastic waste every year, which is the equivalent to the weight of the entire human population. So things definitely have to change. But not all lifestyles are the same. And what research tells us is that cities contribute to about 60 to 80% of all greenhouse and consume around 75% of natural resources, which accounts for about 50% of all waste, which is pretty significant when we think about it. So what we understand is that the lifestyles of people living in cities are probably the ones that are most in need of change. Now, if things continue as they are, some researchers say that humanity will need the equivalent of 2 Earths to support itself, which just isn't sustainable for very long. Not only will we need 2 Earths, but research suggests that if by 2030 we haven't kept global warming below 1.5 degrees, we'll likely see more than 90% of coral reefs disappear. The number of dangerous hot days increase, and hopefully this gives you a hint to the when we really need to change. And you might have guessed it already, it's 2030. In fact, the Sustainable Development Goals written by the United Nations actually have a particular target specifically aimed to address lifestyles. And you'll find this in Goal 12.8, which states that by 2030, people everywhere should have the relevant information and awareness for sustainable development and lifestyles that are in harmony with nature. So now we know that things need to change and that 2030 is the year that this really should have happened by. The next question is, well, how should lifestyles change? And a lot of researchers are working on this right now, and information is available already to help guide us in thinking about lifestyles and lifestyle changes. So, for example, we know that around 50% of people's total energy use is influenced by our choices. So, broadly, if we think about what sustainable lifestyles might look like or might involve, it's about rethinking our ways of living. So, what we buy, how we organise our everyday lives. It's also about altering how we socialise, exchange, share, educate, and build identities. So, it means transforming our societies and living in harmony with the environments around us. Some things to remember though, which I think is really important for us not to forget. There's no such thing as a universal sustainable lifestyle. What is sustainable in one place may not necessarily be sustainable in another. We also need to remember that lifestyles change, and they change because people's aspirations change, but also because of social change to do with things like new technologies, new social conditions. Living with COVID is an example of how lifestyles have had to change quite quickly in response to social distancing and various other things that we've seen introduced because of COVID. And we need more than just knowledge to change lifestyles. And this is a really important point. We can't always do what we want to do, even if we know it might be the right thing. Perhaps because we don't have access to something, or maybe we're limited by money or skills. It could be any number of things. So, what can be helpful to understand are the different dimensions to our lifestyles. So, these are the different aspects that make up our everyday lives. So, we might find that it's easier to make changes in some dimensions in our life more than others. And maybe someone can make some kind of change in one, and you can make a change in another. So the dimensions include food, housing, mobility, which is all about how we get around, consumer goods, what we buy, and also leisure, what it is that we do for fun. Now, the Sustainable Lifestyles Task Force, which is a United Nations program or initiative, have some really helpful information about each of the dimensions and different ways that we might work towards transitioning current lifestyles towards more sustainable ones. If you're interested, you can download this document. So it's important to remember that we need to work together towards making changes, and that the changes that I might be able to make might not be the same ones as what you can do right now. And that's okay. So I guess my last point in answering this question is just a reminder or a call to say that it will be our combined individual changes that really make the difference that we need to see in the world. Thank you.